Chapter 1. Shadows of Confinement. Eldur opened his eyes to a realm submerged in shadows, the air thick with the echoes of ancient powers and lost voices. This world, detached from reality, pulsed with a deep, undulating darkness that seemed alive with the memories of his past deeds. As he rose to his feet, the shadows around him whispered of battles fought and kingdoms fallen, echoes of a life spent in pursuit of domination and power. As he wandered through this shadowy landscape, Eldur's heart grew heavy with anger. He was a creature of ambition and control, not one to be confined or forgotten, like an old legend tucked away in the dusty pages of human books. His memories, unlike those of his companions, remained painfully intact, each one a sharp reminder of what he had lost and what he was determined to regain. In the distance, a fortress loomed, a massive structure carved from the very essence of the Shadow Realm. Its towers pierced the swirling mists, standing as a beacon in this otherwise formless expanse. With a sense of purpose reignited, Eldur strode towards the fortress, his resolve hardening with each step. As he approached the grand gates of the fortress, he noticed a peculiar shimmer in the air at the center of the main hall. A small rift in reality, glowing faintly, seemed to pulse with a potential escape, or perhaps a portal to a world he once ruled. His heart raced with the possibility of breaking free from this spectral prison. Just as he reached out to touch the rift, a powerful voice boomed through the hall, echoing off the stone walls with a command that halted him in his tracks. "Halt! Go no further!" From the shadows, a figure emerged. The custodian of the Shadow Realm, Veylan, stood before him. His form was both fluid and constant, a paradoxical presence crafted from the very essence of the realm itself. Veylan's appearance, his silhouette blurred and shifting, surrounded by a halo of dim light that seemed to flicker with the beat of this hidden world's heart. "Veylan," Eldur said, his voice a mix of recognition and defiance. "I am bound by no chains, not even those woven by cosmic decree." Veylan regarded Eldur with a gaze that held the weight of eons. "I am the Keeper, Eldur, created by the cosmic forces to guard this realm and ensure that none who are confined here may return to the reality from which they have been banished. You are here because the balance of your world could no longer tolerate your chaos." Eldur's fists clenched at his sides. "I will not be held by shadows and whispers. I demand return to my domain." The Shadow Realm is not merely a prison, but a crucible. Here, you will face the consequences of your past, and perhaps find redemption or eternal damnation. Veylan replied calmly, his voice echoing with a resonance that suggested not just authority, but an immutable decree. With the introduction of Veylan, the chapter sets the stage for Eldur's journey within the Shadow Realm, a journey that could either lead to his return to power or his final fall into the abyss of forgotten legends. The dynamics between the willful Eldur and the dutiful Veylan promise a clash of epic proportions, as one seeks freedom and the other ensures order. Chapter 2. Echoes of the Shadow Realm. As Eldur reached out to the shimmering rift, determined to reclaim his place in reality, the rift seemed to stretch infinitely away from his grasp. Despite his considerable power, the rift remained just beyond his reach, an elusive gateway mocking his efforts. "You cannot leave this place," Veylan's voice echoed around him, omnipresent and firm. "Your powers are insignificant here." With a dismissive wave of his hand, Veylan demonstrated his dominion over this domain. Eldur was suddenly thrust backward by an unseen force, tumbling through the shadows until darkness consumed him. Moments later, Eldur awoke with a start, finding himself back where his day had begun, far from the fortress and the tantalizing rift. He lay on the cold, shadow-drenched ground, the realization of his powerlessness settling over him like a suffocating blanket. Veylan is all-powerful in this place, Eldur muttered to himself, his voice tinged with frustration and defeat. I am but an insect, crawling at his feet. Determined not to succumb to despair, Eldur stood and began to wander through the vast, nebulous landscape of the Shadow Realm. As he walked, the realm seemed to pulse with the echoes of its prisoners, mythical legends and creatures reduced to mere wisps and shadows. Once mighty entities, now confined to the margins of reality, their powers nothing more than fleeting memories. Eldur's path led him through a swirling mist where he witnessed the spectre of a powerful demon, locked in an eternal battle with an unseen foe. The demon roared and struck with ferocity, but as Eldur approached, the image dissolved into the shadows, leaving a haunting silence in its wake. Continuing his journey, Eldur glimpsed the grandeur of ancient castles and halls, where shadowy figures of powerful elders debated and ruled. These visions of past supremacy were equally transient, fading into the mist as he neared. The land of shadow revealed its inhabitants in brief, vivid displays. Mighty werewolves prowling the ethereal forests, vampires in their darkened enclaves, exuding an air of lost nobility, and other mythical beings, like gargoyles perched atop forgotten ruins, their stone eyes surveying a realm they could no longer touch. Each figure appeared real and tangible for a fleeting moment, before melting back into the darkness from which they had emerged. As Eldur witnessed these phantoms of power and terror, he realized that the Shadow Realm was not just a prison, but a mirror reflecting the tragedies of its captives. Each creature, each legend that had once inspired awe and fear, now existed only as a shadow of its former self, powerless, aimless, and trapped within the confines of this dark purgatory. But Eldur, ever the strategist, saw more than despair in these apparitions. He saw potential allies, echoes of power that might, under his guidance, find a way to resist Veylan's omnipotence. It is my destiny to return to reality, he proclaimed into the oppressive darkness. And if I am to escape this cursed realm, I must gather these shadows under my command. With a newfound resolve, Eldur set out to rally the remnants of supernatural might, hoping to uncover a weakness in Veylan's armor, a chink through which they all might finally break free. Chapter 3. The Keeper's Decree. Eldur sat forlornly on the cold, shadow-strewn ground, his brilliant mind whirling with potential strategies that might offer an escape from this ethereal prison. As he pondered deeply, a voice resounded through the shadowy expanse, reverberating with absolute authority. There is no escape, Eldur, and soon you too shall become no more than a shadow, merely a fable within forgotten lore. Startled, Eldur turned to see Veylan standing ominously behind him. The Keeper's presence was both awe-inspiring and chilling, a stark reminder of the absolute power he wielded over the Shadow Realm. I show you these visions so you may fully grasp the hopelessness of your confinement. Reality was not meant for you or your kind. You are destined to be nothing more than shadows and fables, now and for all eternity. Eldur's gaze met Veylan's unyielding eyes, searching for any sign of weakness in the cosmic being before him. With a defiant tone, Eldur challenged him. And what does that make you, Veylan? You too are bound to this realm. Veylan's expression remained impassive as he responded, No, Eldur, I am not a prisoner. I am the Keeper of the Shadows. My purpose is to ensure that reality remains untainted by your kind. Refusing to cower, Eldur retorted sarcastically, Then make me a shadow, a mere wisp, a memory. It cannot possibly be as tedious as having to endure your pontifications. But in that moment, Veylan had already vanished, as if he were nothing more than a mirage or a trick of the light. Eldur looked around at the vast emptiness that surrounded him, the desolation of the Shadow Realm stretching infinitely in every direction. Mighty Veylan has formidable power, but there must be a way for me to claim it, Eldur mumbled to himself, his voice a mix of determination and vexation. Determined to find a crack in the seemingly impervious armor of the Keeper, Eldur rose to his feet. He knew that understanding Veylan's source of power was crucial. If Veylan derived his strength from the Shadow Realm itself, perhaps there was a way to turn that power against him. As night fell deeper across the realm of shadows, Eldur wandered through the eerie landscape, each step fueling his resolve. He knew the key to his freedom lay in unraveling the mysteries of this realm and its keeper, the whispers of the past, the echoes of mythical creatures, and the legends of old. Each held clues that Eldur intended to piece together. His plan was audacious, perhaps bordering on the impossible, but Eldur had always thrived in the face of adversity. If there was even a sliver of hope that he could harness the realm's power, he would find it, or be lost to the shadows trying. Chapter 4. The Hidden Refuge. You there? A faint voice called out, barely more than a whisper against the eerie silence of the Shadow Realm. Eldur spun around, scanning the desolate landscape, but saw nothing. Over here, the voice insisted. Focusing more intently, Eldur noticed a shimmering in the air, like a mirage or heat wave. Yes, the voice said, seeming to emanate from the distortion itself. As Eldur approached, an arm, an oddly proportioned, dwarfish limb, reached out and pulled him through the anomaly. He stumbled into a dimly lit cave, its walls aglow with a soft, unnatural light. Before him stood a small, dwarfish man, ancient and gnarled like the roots of an old tree. His eyes twinkled with a mix of mischief and wisdom. "Who are you?" Eldur demanded, regaining his composure. "And what is this place?" The dwarf chuckled softly, his voice crackling like dry leaves. "I am called Torbin, and this, my reluctant guest, is my sanctuary. I've dwelled here for many cycles, hidden from the Keeper's all-seeing eyes." Torbin motioned for Eldur to sit on a rough-hewn stone bench. "There are shadows within shadows here, crevices and folds in reality that even Veylan cannot peer into. But we must be cautious. Stray too long or too far from this haven, and his gaze will find us." Eldur, still processing his sudden transition from the barren outer realm to this hidden enclave, asked, "Are there others here?" Torbin shook his head. "No. It has been ages since Veylan allowed anyone to wander freely as long as you have. But know this, he will soon discover your absence, and he will be furious." "Good," Eldur replied, a smirk forming on his lips. "His anger may yet prove to be his undoing. Now let's talk about how I can leave this realm." Torbin's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Escape is not a matter of simple walks through portals, Eldur. Veylan's power here is absolute. Almost. There is one possibility, a legend really. It speaks of a core from which this realm draws its existence, a nexus of energy that Veylan guards fervently. Control the nexus, and you might control the way out." Eldur leaned forward, his interest piqued. "And where is this nexus?" "In the very fortress you tried to storm," Torbin said with a wry smile. "It is the heart of the Shadow Realm, deeply guarded and ensconced within layers of traps and spells." Eldur's mind raced, piecing together a plan. "Then we must find a way to reach it. If Veylan's attention is drawn to searching for me, perhaps we can use that distraction to our advantage." Torbin nodded, his expression serious. It will be dangerous, and we will need more than just cunning. We will need power. Power that might be gleaned from the very shadows we wish to escape. As they began to plot their next steps, the air in the cave seemed to thrum with potential, the shadows dancing more vigorously, as if sensing the brewing storm of rebellion against their master. Chapter 5. The Rescue from Shadows. Eldur, his mind racing with the possibilities Torben had laid before him, considered the implications. Is there any way to release others from the shadows? He asked, a mix of determination and dread in his voice. Torben, the aged keeper of secrets, replied thoughtfully, I have never been able to, but someone like you, an elder who is part shadow, might merge with the memories preserved in the shadows. However, be warned, the moment you attempt this, Veylan will surely sense the disturbance and be upon you swiftly. Eldur nodded, resolute despite the dangers. There is one I wish to free from the shadows, he confessed, his voice heavy with urgency. But how can we find the ones we seek when Veylan controls the realm? He controls the shadows, not the memories within them, Torben corrected softly. Eldur spent hours discussing strategies and learning more about the Shadow Realm's intricacies from Torben. Finally, he prepared for his first rescue mission, stealthily exiting the hidden cave. You have exactly 3 minutes before he notices your absence, Torben whispered as Eldur blended into the realm's eerie landscape. Transforming into his shadow form, Eldur merged with the ethereal wisps, each one a fleeting memory of tales and fables. Are you there? He called into the void. Almost immediately, 2 enormous eyes appeared in the sky, Veylan's gaze piercing through the darkness towards the disturbance. Are you there? Eldur called again, desperation edging his voice. A winged creature snapped at him from the shadows, and Eldur hastily retreated from the memory. Torben's voice echoed in his mind. It's too late. He'll see you. But then, Eldur spotted a familiar face within another shadow memory. It's a trap. He's luring you, Torben warned. Ignoring the danger, Eldur plunged back into the shadows, crying out, We can be free. Grab my hand. His shadowy arm stretched into the nothingness, the shadows swirling menacingly around him. Suddenly, a hand clasped his. With a forceful pull, he dragged the figure from the shadow memory into the physical world. Confused and dazed, Serana stood beside him, her eyes wide with shock. Wasting no time, Eldur pulled her along to the safety of the hidden cave, just as Veylan appeared outside, his formidable presence scanning the area. They slipped inside just in time, the entrance concealing them once again from the keeper's prying eyes. Inside the cave, Torben let out a relieved sigh. That was too close. Serana, coming out of her daze, looked up with recognition and a mix of emotions. Eldur, she uttered, her voice a blend of relief and bewilderment. Eldur nodded at her, his expression serious but relieved. Welcome back, Serana. It's time we talk about how we can use this newfound freedom to our advantage. His eyes gleamed with the fires of rebellion, now fueled by his successful rescue, and the potential for more allies to be freed from their shadowy prison. Chapter 6. The Search for Winter. As the flickering light of the hidden cave cast long shadows on the walls, Eldur, Serana, and Torben continued their deep discussion into the murky hours of the Shadow Realm's night. Eldur leaned forward, his voice echoing with resolve. We need someone with the intellect to truly overcome our dilemma. Someone powerful enough to outwit this Veylan. Torben shook his head, his old eyes weary yet sharp. Veylan is all-powerful here. There is no creature, from past or future, no being powerful enough to match Veylan's power in the Shadow Realm. Eldur, undeterred, speculated. If we could find the sage, maybe he could... His voice trailed off, pondering the possibilities. Serana interrupted, bringing a new angle to the conversation. What about winter? She suggested, her tone mixing curiosity with a hint of caution. Eldur turned to look at her, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. I like the way you think, he acknowledged. Then he turned to Torben. Winter was not just any man. There was something unique about him. If we could find him and free him, perhaps he could be the key to defeating Veylan. Torben, perplexed, rubbed his chin. Winter. I've never heard of such a creature or person, and I have seen them all. Are you sure he is part of the shadows here? Eldur responded. He was a man, yes, but he possessed abilities and a presence that went beyond the ordinary. If there's even a slight chance he's confined here, we need to explore it. Serana added, her voice tinged with realism. But of course, there's always the possibility that he defeats us too. If we release him from the shadows, are we prepared to face not just Veylan, but possibly winter if things don't go as planned? Eldur and Torben exchanged a look, the gravity of the situation settling upon the trio. We need to find him first, Eldur concluded. Torben, tell us about these shadows within shadows. How can we search them without drawing Veylan's attention again? Torben began to explain, detailing the intricate layers of the shadow realm and the pockets of deeper darkness where even Veylan's eyes might not reach. There are places, folds in the fabric of this realm, where even the Keeper might not see clearly. We can use these to search for winter discreetly, he described, his voice low to avoid carrying through the coroner's space. Eldur nodded, absorbing every detail. Then we begin our search at first shadows fall tomorrow. Serana, you and I will explore these folds. Torben, you will stay here and keep watch. If Veylan suspects anything, you'll be our warning. The plan set. The three of them settled down to rest, the weight of their upcoming mission pressing heavily upon their minds. As the shadows danced along the cave walls, the potential to change their fate, a sliver of hope in the darkness, seemed just within reach. Chapter 7. Shadows of Betrayal. Eldur and Serana, shrouded in their shadow forms, slipped silently from the hidden cave. The landscape was dotted with ghostly sentinels, Veylan's minions, tasked with watching for any rebellion. Moving with stealth, they evaded these watchers, but it was Serana's curiosity that halted their cautious trek. At the edge of a particularly vivid shadow memory, a lively old town square frozen in time, Serana paused. Wait, she whispered, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of nostalgia and mischief. She stepped into the memory, immersing herself in the bustling scene of a bygone era. Eldur, intrigued, followed her. Inside, the townspeople went about their daily lives, oblivious to the predators now walking among them. Serana approached a man, her smile widening. With a swift grace, she bit into his neck, draining him of his life. It's good. She sighed contentedly, her face a picture of satisfaction. Eldur, not to be outdone, chose his own victim, reveling in the forgotten pleasure of feeding on a living soul. Panic ensued among the spectral townsfolk, their ephemeral forms scattering in terror. Back in the shadow realm, their brief indulgence had not gone unnoticed. As they emerged from the memory, they were met by a host of shadowy figures, Veylan's enforcers, ready to capture them. However, something had changed. The elders felt surges of power coursing through their veins, a direct result of their feeding. Tired of evasion and bolstered by their newfound strength, Eldur decided it was time to confront their pursuers. Enough hiding, he declared, turning to face the dark agents. Together, Eldur and Serana unleashed their enhanced powers, battling the shadowy creatures with a ferocity that turned the tide in their favor. Defeated, the shadow agents dissipated into the ether, leaving Eldur and Serana to return triumphantly to their cave refuge. Torben, witnessing their return and the display of their power, was astounded. "I have never seen Veylan's forces defeated before. How is this possible?" he asked, his voice a mix of fear and admiration. Serana, wiping the residual blood from her lips, shared a look with Eldur. "Feeding on those memories. It's enhanced our powers," she realized aloud. Eldur's eyes sparkled with a ruthless calculation. "Imagine what could happen if we fed on more potent creatures from these memories," he mused, considering the possibilities. Their conversation took a darker turn as they both glanced at Torben. Wait, I helped you," Torben pleaded, sensing their predatory shift. Serana's voice was cold, her decision final. "And you can still help us further." Her words were followed by Torben's scream, echoing through the shadow realm as the two elders fed on their one-time ally. Now empowered and unrestrained by any semblance of gratitude, Eldur and Serana faced a new dilemma: free the potent memories of the shadow realm to enlist their help, or consume them to steal their powers and challenge Veylan directly. As they plotted their next move, the question loomed large. Would their thirst for power see them escape back to reality, or would it lead them into a deeper darkness? The shadows of the realm held their breath, waiting for the next move in the game of power and betrayal that was unfolding. Find out in the next episode of Crimson Dawn, The Shadow Realm. In a realm forged from shadows, the ultimate showdown begins. Witness the primal fury as werewolf hunts werewolf in a struggle for dominance. Meanwhile, the elders conspire, their ancient powers summoned to tilt the scales of fate. Ancient secrets, unthinkable alliances, and a battle that could unravel the very fabric of reality. Who will seize power in the epic saga of Crimson Dawn, The Shadow Realm? Stay tuned and dive into the darkness. Chapter 1: The Gathering Shadows. In the secluded darkness of their hidden cave, Eldur and Serana convened with 6 newly freed elders, each one a shadowy figure drawn from the forgotten depths of memory. The cave's walls, damp and echoing the faint whispers of the realm, formed a stark contrast to the strategic intensity inside. "We need more power, Eldur," Serana insisted, her voice a blend of urgency and calculation. "We must seek out the most formidable creatures trapped in memory. Their strength could be our key to overthrowing Veylan." Eldur nodded, his eyes gleaming with a mix of resolve and ambition. "Agreed. But our priority is also to locate the sage, or perhaps even Winter, though I suspect Winter might not be part of this forsaken realm." Serana paced, her form flickering slightly with impatience. "If Winter is here, he's hidden beyond even Veylan's reach. For now, let's continue to bolster our ranks. The more elders we awaken, the stronger our force against Veylan will become." Meanwhile, Veylan, the keeper of the Shadow Realm, traversed the barren landscapes that he commanded. His steps were silent, but carried the weight of inevitability. Approaching a swirling vortex of shadows, he peered into a memory that held a fierce, primal werewolf, the Alpha, created for a singular purpose: to maintain the balance against the elders. Veylan murmured as he gazed at the captive beast, its eyes burning with a wild, untamed ferocity. With a gesture of his hand, the boundaries of the memory dissolved, and the Alpha stepped forward, its presence formidable and imposing. "Awake, creature," Veylan commanded, his voice resonating with power. "It is time to fulfill your destiny. Keep the elders in check as you were designed to do." As the Alpha shook off the remnants of its shadowy prison, its roar echoed through the realm, a sound that promised chaos and retribution. Back in their cave, Eldur and Serana sensed a shift in the air, a disturbance that spoke of a new, formidable challenge about to unfold. Eldur turned to the gathered elders, his expression grim yet determined. "Prepare yourselves. The true test of our resolve is upon us. Veylan has made his move, and we must respond with all the cunning and strength at our disposal." Chapter 2. Echoes of the Past. As the Alpha tore across the desolate landscape of the Shadow Realm, its powerful limbs kicked up clouds of dust that lingered in the air like spectres of its tumultuous passage. Its instincts, primal and unyielding, urged it forward with a singular, destructive purpose: to annihilate the Elders. The air howled past, mirroring the fury in its heart and the relentless drive of its enormous paws against the barren ground. But as the miles stretched on, a shift occurred, a flicker of consciousness amid the wild impulses. The Alpha's relentless pace slowed, its fierce snarls quieting to heavy pants. Memories began to seep through the cracks of its primal armor, illuminating flashes of a past life. Images of a man with a chrome mask surfaced, a presence that had been both a leader and a protector, a father figure whose sacrifice had once altered the very fabric of reality. The Alpha stopped in its tracks, its massive head tilting towards the sky. A long, mournful howl broke from its throat, resonating across the Shadow Realm. This howl was laden with the weight of memory and loss, a lament for a past that was both cherished and heartbreaking. In this moment of poignant clarity, the Alpha's eyes focused with a new determination. It gazed at the distant fortress of Veylan, a monolithic structure that stood as a bastion of control and oppression. A deep, instinctual knowledge took hold, the realization that Veylan was the architect of its current plight and the source of the Shadow Realm's suffocating confines. The memories Winter had instilled in the Alpha, whether by design or deep-seated emotional connection, had ignited a spark of rebellion within the beast. With renewed purpose, the Alpha shifted its massive frame, no longer a mere instrument of destruction, guided by Veylan's will. Now it sought redemption and freedom, not just for itself, but for the father figure who had given everything to save it. With a powerful grunt, the Alpha began its march towards Veylan's fortress, each step a defiance against the fate that had been imposed upon it. Its path was no longer one of blind fury, but a deliberate stride towards confrontation, driven by a newfound resolve to overcome the Shadow Realm and its keeper. Chapter 3. The Watcher's Gaze. Veylan stood atop a vantage point within the Shadow Realm, his eyes sweeping across the barren, echo-filled expanse with an omnipotent calm. He watched intently as Eldur and Serana, figures of shadow and deceit, liberated more of their kind from the memories held captive in the realm's fabric. His gaze then shifted to the Alpha, whose burgeoning defiance added a ripple to the otherwise still landscape. A sly smile crept across Veylan's ageless face. "Like ants marching to their doom," he murmured to the emptiness around him. He found a certain amusement in their futile attempts at rebellion, knowing well the limits of their reach within his domain. "Let them have their fun, for now," he continued, his voice echoing like a whisper of the wind across the realm. "For centuries have I watched this place, and I will put them all back in their boxes when I have finished toying with them." Veylan, born from a cosmic need, was not just a guardian, but a manifestation of the universe's demand for order. His existence was both eternal and essential, tasked with an unending vigil to ensure that none of the creatures of shadow overstepped the bounds set by reality itself. His power, vast and unchallenged within the confines of the Shadow Realm, was granted by the cosmos to maintain the delicate balance between the world of myths and the tangible reality that humans occupied. As he watched the Elders and the Alpha stir unrest, Veylan reflected on his eternal purpose. Each entity within this realm was a potential threat to the outside world, and his role was to contain these threats indefinitely. He was the dam holding back a flood of ancient and chaotic forces that, if released, could unravel the fabric of reality. The power Veylan wielded was not merely about suppression, it was a necessary force of stability. His existence ensured that the Shadow Realm remained a prison for those who could upend the natural order. As much as he was the keeper, he was also the last line of defense against the potential havoc that Eldur, Serana, and their ilk could wreak if they were to ever find their way back into the human world. This chapter of eternal vigilance was Veylan's alone to write, and as he watched the unfolding drama, he knew that soon he would have to intervene to reassert his dominance. The thought did not burden him. It was simply his nature, as inevitable as the rise and set of the stars in the sky above. Chapter 4. Shadows within shadows. In the Shadow Realm, where reality blurred with the echoes of forgotten myths, an elder named Varys returned from a short reconnaissance mission with urgent news. His face was pale, marked by the weight of his discovery. "Eldur, we have found something," he panted, rushing towards Eldur, who was discussing strategies with Serana. "What is it? A gateway? A weapon?" Eldur pressed, his voice tinged with both hope and impatience. "No." Varys shook his head, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. "A strange version of a shadowy memory, only it's different. I looked inside, and I saw him. He looked right at me as if he knew who I was." "Who? The Sage, Winter?" Eldur's voice rose in anticipation. "Speak, damn you." "No, I am sure it was the one called Eldritch," Varys exclaimed. Serana's expression darkened at the mention of the name. "He is no friend of ours," she remarked coldly. Eldur nodded, his mind racing with the possibilities. "The enemy of our enemy," he mused aloud. "Eldritch is indeed formidable, and does possess the intellect to help us, if we can indeed get him on our side." "I will not go," Serana interrupted, her tone firm. "He almost killed me last time." "I will go," declared Eldur decisively. He followed Varys to the shadowy portal. Merging into his shadow form, Eldur entered the anomalous memory. As soon as he materialized, a voice greeted him, smooth and confident. "Welcome, Eldur. I have been expecting you." Eldur scanned his surroundings, finding Eldritch seated calmly, almost regally, in the midst of the shadowy echo. "Eldritch, the situation has changed," Eldur began, trying to convey the urgency of their plight. "I understand we've had our differences, but now is the time to come together for the greater good of the Elders." Eldritch raised an eyebrow, his gaze piercing. "Nothing you do is for the greater good, Eldur. It's always been for your own ambitions." "How are you able to remember, even when trapped within this shadow memory?" Eldur asked, curious despite himself. "Not all Elders are created equal," Eldritch replied with a slight smirk. "Here, I can exist without the burden of the outside world, without the worries of man's greed or the incessant need to take from others." Eldur pleaded, his voice earnest. "We need you, Eldritch. Veylan is too powerful for us alone. We must stand together. I simply want to exist in reality, not this place. Maybe we could even find Winter here." Eldritch's expression darkened at the mention of Winter. "You must not. If he is even in this place, his return would spell doom for reality." "Then you will help us," Eldur pressed, sensing a shift in the conversation. "No." Eldritch's voice was firm, resolute. "I seek nothing but peace. Now leave, I grow weary of your presence." Eldur could feel Eldritch's anger and knew better than to press further. As he withdrew, his parting words hung in the air. "We, the Elders, your brothers, need you." The plea echoed in the shadows, unanswered, as Eldur retreated back to the uncertain safety of his own realm. Shadows of Alliance. Back in his hidden cave, Eldur discussed the recent encounter with Serana. "No, he is not one of us," Eldur concluded with a sigh, reflecting on Eldritch's refusal to join their cause. Serana smirked slightly. "Good. There's something odd about him. He never truly was one of us, even before all this." Meanwhile, in the barren expanses of the Shadow Realm, the Alpha set its sights on the fortress of Veylan. As memories of the past flooded back, a simmering anger boiled up inside. The Alpha's eyes emitted a primal red glow as it began to charge toward the fortress, driven by a singular purpose. Suddenly, a commanding voice echoed through the realm. "Stop! You cannot win this one!" The Alpha halted, muscles tensed, ready to destroy anything or anyone who dared to obstruct its path. Standing before it was an old, frail-looking elder, Eldritch. "Remember me?" "We're on the same team out there, big guy," Eldritch said, trying to calm the raging beast. A flash of memory crossed the Alpha's mind. Images of Eldritch, Winter, and itself in combat together. Eldritch continued, "I know you seek to confront Veylan, but he is beyond you, too powerful. And to what end? We cannot leave this place. To do so would undo everything he sacrificed for." Eldritch paused, his gaze piercing into the Alpha's fiery eyes. "I cannot say for sure, but I think he may be here, in one of these memories. Which one, though, I'm unsure. Why don't we look for him together?" The Alpha looked towards the fortress, its primal nature yearning to unleash its fury. Yet, it then glanced back at Eldritch, considering the memories of Winter and the possibility that he might still exist within the Shadow Realm. With a heavy snort, the Alpha turned away from the fortress, its decision made. "Good choice," Eldritch nodded approvingly. Together, they would search for Winter, hoping to find a way to harness his intellect and power once again. This newfound alliance between the primal force of the Alpha and the cunning mind of Eldritch marked a significant shift in the dynamics of the Shadow Realm, setting the stage for a deeper exploration of their entwined fates. Chapter 6. Quest for Power. Veylan strolled through the echoing halls of his fortress, each step resonating with the absolute authority he wielded over the Shadow Realm. He approached a golden, glowing nexus of energy, the core of his power and the lifeline of the realm itself. As he gazed into the pulsating light, he muttered, "They must never find you." Within the swirling luminescence of the nexus, a brief image of a chrome mask flickered, hinting at secrets deeply buried. Meanwhile, Eldur emerged frustrated from yet another memory within the Shadow Realm. "This is getting us nowhere," he exclaimed, his voice echoing off the formless landscapes around him. "We need power, something to fight Veylan with. We must start looking for more powerful beings." Serana, who had been quietly observing the endless shadows, suddenly spoke up. "Do you think the gods are here?" Her question hung in the air, a beacon of both hope and dread. Eldur paused, considering the possibility. If they are, surely their shadow memories would stand out like beacons in this dreary place. The idea seemed to ignite a spark of strategy in his eyes. "Send out a scout," he commanded. "Have them traverse this land for anomaly portals. We need an edge." At Eldur's behest, one of their newfound elder allies transformed into a shadow and slipped away, moving through the realm with a purpose. This elder was tasked with finding any anomalies that might indicate the presence of a god's shadow memory, a potential game-changer in their struggle against Veylan's tyranny. Back in the fortress, Veylan, unaware of the Elder's renewed efforts, continued to survey his domain, his mind wandering through the complexities of his creation and the beings he was sworn to confine. Each creature's essence, trapped within the realm, contributed to the balance he was charged with maintaining. Yet, the presence of Winter's image in the Nexus troubled him. It was a reminder of the thin line he walked between control and chaos. As the Elder Scout ventured further into the Shadow Realm, the landscape began to change subtly. The shadows seemed to pulse with a more intense darkness, and distant echoes of power resonated through the air. It was here that the Scout felt the air thicken, a sign that something monumental lay ahead. The stage was set for a discovery that could either doom them to eternal shadows or elevate them to challenge Veylan's rule directly. Whatever lay ahead, Eldur and his allies knew this was a turning point, one that could finally tip the scales in their shadowy war. Chapter 7. Confrontation of Alphas. The Alpha, with Eldritch by his side, tore across the Shadow Realm, their powerful strides echoing through the void. Their mission was clear: find Winter, potentially locked within a shadowy memory, before Veylan could tighten his grip on the realm. Meanwhile, Veylan patrolled the desolate expanses of his domain, his gaze drawn to a secluded, shadowy memory, well hidden in a remote corner of the realm. Speaking into the swirling darkness, he said, "It seems your offspring is causing me some trouble. I need you to put him back in his place." The image within the memory growled back. A formidable, primal werewolf, the true progenitor of Winter's Alpha, born of sheer ferocity and instinct, designed to dominate and destroy any opposition. "Time to put the family in its place," Veylan commanded, his voice echoing with authority. "After all, there can be only one Alpha." The ancient werewolf roared into the sky, its call reverberating across the realm, a clear and terrifying declaration of impending dominance. Elsewhere, the Elder Scout, utilizing the speed of shadow, traversed the eerie landscapes of the Shadow Realm. After a relentless search, the Scout stumbled upon an anomalous part of the realm, darker, colder, and seemingly energy-draining. In the center stood a massive portal, a shadowy memory far larger and more ominous than any other encountered. Compelled by curiosity and duty, the Elder entered the portal, only to find himself in a nightmarish scene. Hordes of undead zombies roaming in unison, their soulless eyes void of any consciousness. Realizing the danger of this place, the Elder attempted to flee, but found himself ensnared by an unseen force. "Going somewhere," boomed the resonant voice of Necros, the god of the undead, filling the space with dread. The Elder, now trapped and facing the god responsible for the undead's creation, braced for a confrontation that might well determine his fate, and perhaps that of the entire Shadow Realm. Back with Eldur and Serana in their hidden cave, they awaited the Scout's return, unaware of the Scout's perilous situation. They discussed their next moves, the atmosphere heavy with the urgency of their mission and the looming threat of Veylan's ever-watchful presence. This chapter sets the stage for multiple showdowns between the true primal Alpha and Winter's Alpha, between the Elders and Veylan, and between the Shadow Realm's denizens and their overseer, Veylan. As tensions rise, the fate of the Shadow Realm hangs precariously in the balance. Final chapter. Echoes of reality. In the quiet stillness of a small hospital designed for the care of Alzheimer's patients, a nurse made her rounds, tending to a woman named Mara. The room was softly lit, providing a calm atmosphere for those in the final stages of their conditions. As the nurse adjusted the blanket over Mara, she glanced at the monitor displaying Mara's vital signs. Unexpectedly, a blip appeared on the screen. It was subtle yet unmistakable, a slight surge in brain activity, like a faint whisper of consciousness returning from a deep slumber. The nurse paused, her eyes narrowing in mild surprise. Such fluctuations were uncommon, especially for a patient like Mara, whose condition had progressively worsened over time. Curious, the nurse checked the connections of the monitor and ensured everything was in order. She then observed Mara more closely, looking for any signs of awareness. Mara's expression remained unchanged, her features serene yet distant, but the monitor continued to show occasional spikes in activity, suggesting that deep within the recesses of her mind, something was stirring. As the nurse continued her observations, she couldn't help but feel a mix of hope and intrigue. What thoughts were navigating through Mara's mind? Were they remnants of past memories, or something more profound? The room felt charged with a subtle energy, as if Mara were on the brink of awakening from a long and profound dream. This scene closed the chapter on part 2 of Crimson Dawn, the Shadow Realm, leaving a thread of mystery. Was Mara somehow connected to the tumultuous events unfolding in the Shadow Realm? Could her increasing brain activity signify a deeper link to the otherworldly struggles of Eldur, Serana, and the others trapped in the realm of shadows? As the monitor continued to beep softly in the background, the story paused, promising that the echoes of the Shadow Realm were reaching into the very fabric of reality, hinting at revelations yet to come in the next season of Crimson Dawn. In a realm where shadows twist and ancient powers awaken, two alpha werewolves clash in a ferocious battle destined to shake the very foundation of their existence. As Eldur seeks allies in his dark quest, an old god stirs, unleashing legions of undead warriors. But when powers collide at Veylan's fortress, who will command the Shadow Realm? Can ancient hatreds be buried, or will they doom all to eternal darkness? Join us to uncover the fate of the Shadow Realm. Chapter 1. As the Elder Scout's form dissolves into ash and shadow, the chilling power of Necros is fully awakened. The dark realm quivers under his newly revived presence, a stark reminder of his godly might. Amidst the eerie silence of the Shadow Realm, a sinister portal crackles to life. From its depths, a ghastly bony hand reaches out, clawing at the shadows as if to rip apart the very fabric of this realm. With a thunderous roar that shakes the foundations of the shadow world, Necros emerges fully from the portal. Behind him, a horde of undead zombies spills forth, an endless stream of decay that floods into the Shadow Realm. Driven by his will, the ground where they tread turns black, life leaching out into the air, adding to the realm's despair. Necros towers over the land, his form a horrifying spectacle of dominance. As he strides forward, the realm itself seems to darken with his passage, and a cold wind carries his ominous decree.
So, the one called Veylan thinks he can subdue a god.
His voice booms across the distances, a declaration of war against the keeper of the realm. With purpose in his every step, Necros begins his march towards Veylan's fortress. The Shadow Realm that once contained whispers and echoes now trembles under the wrath of an awakened god, setting the stage for a confrontation of epic proportions. This chapter is painted with broad strokes of dread and anticipation, as the realm braces for the impending clash between two colossal powers. Chapter 2. Perched on a remote ridge, Eldritch and Winter's Alpha observe the ominous march of Necros and his legion of undead. The land itself withers under the undead god's touch, a sea of death advancing towards Veylan's fortress. Eldritch muses quietly.
This could be to our advantage. Necros, mighty though he may be, is not sovereign here. His challenge might just weaken Veylan enough for us to act.
But his words falter as a colossal blur of primal fury interrupts him. In a breathtaking display of power, the Alpha Prime, a massive werewolf even more formidable than Winter's Alpha, launches itself into the fray. Eldritch narrowly evades the attack by transforming into shadow. The Alpha Prime and Winter's Alpha engage in a ferocious duel, their growls and snarls echoing across the ridge. The Alpha Prime's eyes blaze a demonic red, its physical superiority clear. Caught between a desire to aid and a need to survive, Eldritch crafts a daring plan. He dives into the heart of Necros' advancing horde, disrupting the undead with his shadow magic. Necros, perceiving the disturbance, redirects his wrath towards Eldritch, who strategically leads the undead god and his legion towards the ongoing battle between the Alphas. As the Alpha Prime prepares to deliver a fatal blow to Winter's Alpha, the ground trembles under the weight of Necros' army. Distracted by the new threat, the Alpha Prime shifts its focus to the undead, its predatory instincts triggered by the mass of foes. Seizing the moment of distraction, Eldritch assists Winter's Alpha in making a narrow escape. The battle scene becomes a chaotic clash of primal rage, undead persistence, and shadowy manipulation. As Necros and the Alpha Prime collide, the landscape of the Shadow Realm echoes with the fury of unleashed powers, setting the stage for unforeseen alliances and betrayals in the heart of the darkness. Chapter 3. In the throes of battle, the Alpha Prime, a creature born from raw, hellish primal fury, lays waste to Necros' undead legions with terrifying ease. Each enemy felled fuels its ferocity, growing stronger and more formidable by the second. However, Necros, a god not easily thwarted, quickly tires of this interruption. With a mere gesture, a dark wave of his necromantic power washes over the Alpha Prime. The creature's life force is corrupted, turning it into an undead monstrosity, now a powerful general in Necros' army of decay. As Necros reassumes control and continues his relentless march towards Veylan's fortress, the Alpha Prime, now undead, leads the vanguard, its eyes burning with a ghastly light, an unholy fusion of primal rage and necrotic decay, enhancing its already formidable prowess. Meanwhile, hidden away from the immediate chaos, Eldritch attends to Winter's Alpha. Despite his lack of experience with lichen physiology, he does his best to tend the Alpha's grievous wounds.
I've never nursed a lichen before,
Eldritch mutters, half to himself.
so this is all rather experimental, but I believe you'll pull through.
He applies what makeshift remedies he can, hoping they stem the bleeding and ease the pain. Back at Eldur's hidden cave, a sense of urgency permeates the air as a scout bursts in with vital information. He breathlessly reports the sighting of Necros and his undead horde, now led by the transformed Alpha Prime, moving with purpose towards Veylan's stronghold. A sly grin spreads across Eldur's face as he hears the news. The room falls silent, all eyes on him, anticipating his next words.
My friends,
Eldur begins, his voice low and conspiratorial.
this may be the diversion we've been waiting for. Necros and Veylan, two titans clashing. It's the perfect opportunity for us to act. While they are preoccupied, we shall implement a plan to seize control over the nexus of this realm.
His gaze sweeps across those gathered, gauging their reactions to his bold strategy. As Eldur outlines his cunning plan, the tension is palpable, the risks are immense, but so are the potential rewards. With strategic precision, Eldur details each step, assigning roles and preparing his fellow elders for what could be the greatest heist of power in the history of the Shadow Realm. Chapter 4. Veylan, the omnipotent keeper of the Shadow Realm, had been watching every twist and turn within his domain. As he observed Necros' release and subsequent rebellion, he remained unfazed, confident in his unrivaled control.
Necros believes himself a threat.
Veylan mused aloud, his voice echoing across the ethereal landscape.
but he is no more dangerous to me than the smallest bug underfoot. Yet, this does present a splendid opportunity to remind everyone of the power I wield here.
He set out from his fortress, his form shifting and flowing like a dark cloud, moving to intercept the god of the undead. Meanwhile, back at Eldur's hideout, just as Eldur was gearing up to take advantage of the chaos, another Elder Scout burst into the scene, with news that could change their course.
I have found him.
The scout exclaimed.
I have found the sage.
Before Eldur could process this, the sage himself stepped into the cave, his presence commanding and serene.
The commotion has loosened the shadows that bound me. I have freed myself,
He declared. Eldur bowed respectfully.
Mighty sage, your wisdom is most timely. Our plight grows dire, and we are in need of your guidance.
Indeed, but first we should witness the clash between Veylan and Necros.
The sage suggested, leading the group to a safe vantage point from where they could observe the impending showdown. As Veylan confronted Necros, the realm seemed to hold its breath.
Halt, go no further.
Veylan commanded with an air of absolute authority. In response, Necros unleashed a barrage of decaying energy and tendrils, commanding his undead legion to attack. With a mere wave of his hand, Veylan effortlessly reversed Necros' assault, banishing him and his undead minions back into their shadowy confines. All but one, the Alpha Prime.
You had a job to do.
Veylan spoke directly to the Alpha Prime, who now stood bewildered, yet still under the influence of Necros' dark power. With another gesture, Veylan cleansed the Alpha Prime of its undead afflictions, restoring its primal essence. Proceed, he commanded, and the Alpha Prime, reinvigorated with its original purpose, sprinted off to locate Winter's Alpha. From their hidden viewpoint, Eldur and his companions watched in awe and fear. The display of Veylan's power was beyond anything they had anticipated. Eldur, realizing the futility of their current strategies against such a formidable force, whispered urgently,
We stand no chance against him in direct confrontation. We must retreat and reconsider.
With haste, they retreated back to their sanctuary, their minds racing with the implications of Veylan's overwhelming might and what it meant for their own plans of escape and resistance. Chapter 5. In the dim light of the cave, Eldur paced restlessly, his frustration evident.
Veylan's power is unmatched. Facing him is a death wish.
He lamented. The sage, ever calm and introspective, responded,
Eldur, we were not meant to escape this shadow. Reality itself has placed us here, and it is here we should remain. Return to your shadow memory and accept our fate.
Serana scoffed at the sage's resignation.
And you are the wisest among us. Eldur has led us with courage and strength far greater than any shadowy counsel you offer.
She challenged. Eldur, caught between his reverence for the sage and Serana's fiery spirit, hesitated.
Serana, respect. This is the sage.
He started.
Yes, the sage who sides with humans and now condemns us to oblivion.
Serana interjected sharply.
Eldur, you are the rightful leader of the elders. Seize the power you deserve.
The sage looked deeply into Eldur's eyes, searching for a glimpse of the honor and loyalty he hoped still resided there.
Eldur, you could not do this. You are an elder of honor.
He pleaded, but before the sage could react further, Eldur's true intentions revealed themselves. In a flash of betrayal, he lunged at the sage, fangs bared, and clamped down on his neck. The sage struggled, his powers waning under the unexpected assault. Serana joined in, her laughter echoing through the cave as she too bit into the sage.
The best of us? Ha!
Serana taunted as she drained him of his power. The sage managed to break free momentarily, staggering back with a look of profound betrayal.
Eldur, why?
he gasped, clutching at his wounds. But the pair was relentless. They advanced again, overwhelming him with their combined strength.
We are the elders now, sage,
Eldur declared, his voice cold with newfound resolve. As the sage fell to the cave floor, Eldur and Serana stood over him, their bodies absorbing the ancient wisdom and power of their former mentor. The cave grew silent, except for the eerie sound of power shifting hands.
The realm of shadows will have new rulers.
Eldur proclaimed, his eyes glinting with the dark promise of their ascent to power. Chapter 6. In the dim, flickering light of the cave, Eldur stood before his followers, his eyes burning with a fierce intelligence granted by the sage's power.
We must find Nocturna.
He declared, his voice echoing off the stone walls.
Veylan may have banished Necros effortlessly, but we will not engage Nocturna in battle. We seek to usurp his power.
An elder, uncertain and fearful, raised a point.
But would Veylan not simply banish our lord as he did Necros?
Fool.
Eldur snapped sharply, his newfound wisdom cutting through the hesitation.
I do not wish for Nocturna to fight Veylan. I desire his power. With it, I can challenge the very fabric of this realm.
Serana, standing close to Eldur, her eyes reflecting the dark ambition shared between them, smiled wickedly.
I knew you were the true leader, Elder. The sage would have had us resign to an eternity of shadows. But you lead the elders to ascendancy.
Eldur's plan unfolded further as he spoke, with a cold, calculating calm.
Once I possess Nocturna's power, I will seek the strengths of the other gods. The sage's wisdom has shown me the path to defeating Veylan. I will reshape reality itself, much like winter once did. But our new reality will bear the imprint of the elders, an eternal dominion shaped in my image.
Turning to his assembly, he commanded,
Dispatch all scouts. We must locate Nocturna without delay.
Meanwhile, Eldritch, having witnessed the overwhelming display of Veylan's might against Necros and the resurrection of the primal alpha, knew they were in imminent danger.
He seeks us again,
Eldritch murmured, glancing at Winter's alpha struggling to stand.
and he is too powerful. We must evade him.
Winter's alpha, injured yet resilient, tried to muster its strength, its primal essence flickering within.
We are vulnerable here.
Eldritch stated grimly.
Let us retreat to my shadow memory. It is a place he cannot reach.
With a sense of urgency, Eldritch guided the weakened alpha into the depths of his own shadow memory, a realm within a realm where they could hide from the relentless pursuit of the primal alpha. As they disappeared into the shadow, the faint hope of evading their pursuer gave them a momentary relief, shrouded in the uncertainty of their next move in the ever-unfolding drama of the Shadow Realm. Chapter 7. The Alpha Prime, infused with relentless primal rage and an unquenchable thirst for destruction, roamed the desolate landscape of the Shadow Realm. Its powerful howls echoed across the barren fields as it lost the scent of its intended prey. However, its acute senses soon detected another target, a shadowy figure darting through the realm. It was one of Eldur's scouts, on a mission to locate Nocturna. With ferocious speed, the Alpha Prime intercepted the Elder, materializing from shadow just in time to unleash its fury, tearing the Elder apart in a gruesome display of power. Unsatisfied and fueled by unyielding anger, the Alpha Prime continued its rampage across the shadowy expanse, hunting down anything that moved, its existence reduced to an agent of chaos and destruction. Meanwhile, deep within his fortress, Veylan stood before the golden nexus of energy, the core of his power and the control center of the Shadow Realm. The nexus pulsed with a strange anomaly, a recurring vision of a chrome mask.
Why do I see this mask in my realm?
Veylan murmured, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. For the first time in eons, the Eternal Keeper faced a puzzle that wasn't orchestrated by his will.
It's time I restored order,
He declared, his tone resolute, signaling a turning point in his dominion. Back in their hidden refuge, Eldur and Serana received their scouts with disappointing news. No sign of Nocturna's memory had been found. Eldur, now imbued with the sage's wisdom, pondered the situation.
He is here, but hidden behind a puzzle we are yet to solve,
He theorized. Serana, thoughtful and analytical, added,
The undead are visible to all, but elders and lichens have their constraints. Elders by night, lichens by the lunar cycle. Do we have such cycles here?
Eldur nodded.
Indeed, even in this eternal shadow, there are cycles of darker and lighter shades, akin to night and day, and the phases of the moon. Let us then calculate these cycles.
Eldur decided, turning to his gathered elders.
We will use this knowledge to our advantage and uncover Nocturna's hiding place at the opportune moment.
As they set about their calculations, the urgency of their mission was clear. With Veylan poised to put them all back in their box and the threat of the Alpha Prime looming large, Eldur and his allies knew time was against them. The next phase of their plan would require precision, stealth, and an understanding of the Shadow Realm's unique laws, a task fraught with peril, but necessary for their survival and ultimate freedom. Chapter 8. As the Shadow Realm cycled into its version of night, a portal pulsated with an eerie energy, manifesting only under the cloak of darkness. Eldur, resolute and determined, stood before the gateway that only he could perceive.
I will undertake this alone,
He declared to Serana, his tone laced with the gravity of the moment. Serana, though apprehensive, nodded in support.
You will prevail.
She affirmed, though the uncertainty in her eyes betrayed her words. Eldur stepped into the portal, entering a desolate landscape devoid of life. Here, in a dominion shaped by vampiric essence, nothing survived. All was consumed. Nocturna, the vampire god, materialized with a swift elegance, his presence dominating the barren vista.
Eldur, your actions have roused me once more. You continue to serve me well.
Nocturna observed, his voice echoing ominously.
Yes, my lord.
Eldur responded with feigned subservience. He cleverly spun a tale of Veylan's overwhelming might, how effortlessly the Keeper had subdued Necros, planting seeds of doubt and fear in Nocturna's mind.
But I have devised a strategy that could amplify your power, enabling you to surpass Veylan and liberate us all.
Eldur proposed, setting the stage for his ultimate deception. Intrigued and driven by the prospect of overcoming Veylan, Nocturna consented to participate in a complex ritual that Eldur claimed would harness the realm's energies. However, at the critical juncture, Eldur, drawing upon the stolen wisdom of the sage, reversed the ritual's flow, siphoning Nocturna's power into himself instead. Nocturna, weakened to a mere shadow of his former self, crumbled to ash, his essence drained completely. Eldur, now imbued with the combined might of Nocturna and the sage, emerged from the portal, not just as an elder, but as something far more formidable, a being of immense power, his eyes alight with the forces he had commandeered. As Eldur stood among his fellow elders, his figure was not just that of their leader, but that of a deity among shadows. The elders gazed upon him with a mix of awe and fear, fully aware that the balance of power within the Shadow Realm had shifted dramatically.
Prepare yourselves. The time to confront Veylan is near, and I shall reshape reality in our image.
As the chapter closes, the stage is set for a monumental clash. Part 3 of the Shadow Realm ends with Eldur ascending to godlike status, poised to challenge the Eternal Keeper, Veylan, in a battle that could redefine the fabric of their shadowy existence.